Alright everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Hi,
Good evening, thank you all for being here. My name is Tony Quintana.
I'm Faith Suzia.
So I'm the Plant-Based Eating Program Manager with Animal Protection New Mexico. I think people are probably kind of familiar with the program a little bit. I'm guessing that you heard about it on Facebook. So some of the things that our program does is just work to promote plant-based eating across the state through different initiatives such as what's happening tonight, cooking demonstrations, cooking classes, nutrition, education, and so forth. Just teaching people different ways to incorporate more plant-based foods in their diets. Another initiative that we have is working to get more plant-based options in local restaurants and dining establishments. So kind of I talked about to you all as you signed in a little bit about the petitions that we have to local dining establishments to have more plant-based options to their menu. And we're just working with organizations to talk about adopting vegan workplace policies or different policies that incorporate more plant-based foods. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Faith, who's going to cook us some, we're not cooking. It's funny, we called it a cooking demo, but we're not actually doing a whole lot of cooking, but
Yeah.
I'll let her take over.
So I'll just start by saying I brought probably half the crowd here tonight. My family's here visiting from the East Coast. So if you see little children running around or if you see me shushing them, it's my little nieces, so I'm allowed to do that. And I also like to just start off by saying for anyone who hasn't gone to any of my demos, I'm just trial and error kind of cook. This isn't something I do professionally. I do it for fun. I learn from my mistakes, and so hopefully I can bring some of that to you guys and encourage you to get in the kitchen because you don't have to be a professional to do this. So tonight, last time we had talked about doing dessert. So I was going to teach everyone my favorite and most simple dessert, which is banana ice cream or nice cream. Some people have different names for it. And it's super simple, and it's a great foundation to start from and then go in a million different directions. And initially I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep this safe, like banana only. And then I was like, oh, a little peanut butter. And I'm like, ooh, let me get wild some berries. And eventually I'm like throwing ginger in and lime juice, and like you can take it all different directions. So that's what we're gonna make. Also, another really frequent recipe I do is chocolate sauce. So I'm gonna teach you a secret chocolate sauce, and then we'll do some samples. So I'm gonna start with the chocolate sauce because the ice cream tends to melt kind of quick. You want to eat it fresh, so we're gonna start with the chocolate sauce. So did we have sheets for people?
Yeah.
Everyone's got their sheets? So I'm gonna start with the chocolate sauce, and really kind of straightforward, but there are ways. I try not to do any recipes that you can like possibly screw up. This can screw up in simple little ways. For instance, like if you get water in the chocolate, that will seize up your chocolate and kind of cause it to get chunky. I've also found in my own cooking that if you heat too quick with the chocolate, of course you can burn the chocolate, but also I find that it can cause separation from the oil. So this is kind of, the things that I would say about this is like low, slow heat, get it melted, like the oil for instance, and then take it from the heat. So I've already melted the oil. I used some coconut oil here. So this one is an unrefined coconut oil. If you get a refined coconut oil and you don't care for a coconut flavor, that's probably the oil you want to go with. But I really like that hint of coconut, so I use the unrefined. So got that melted. It's equal parts coconut oil to maple syrup. This is something you can also kind of play with if you prefer agave, or I haven't done this yet, but we were talking about doing monk fruit to make it sugar-free. These are things that you can kind of play with. And again, like if you like it less sweet, you can kind of take down the sweetness, which is great because everyone's got different preferences. So tonight I was doing kind of a large batch, so I did a half a cup of oil, and I'm going to do a half a cup of the maple syrup. And so another thing to be aware of is if you have had maple syrup in the fridge and then you put it in warmed oil, it could cause the oil to then start to coagulate because the coconut oil, when it's cold, is firm, and when it's hot, it's melted. So I can already see this is kind of starting to chunk up a little bit, so I'm just going to put it over the heat for a quick second. This is like an all-in-one burner. Like, you gotta be really careful. There's no love on this thing. That's pretty good. Okay, so I've got my equal parts coconut oil, equal parts maple syrup. I am very much like a dash of this, a pinch of that, so I'm sorry, I don't always measure. I just do a little bit of vanilla. And then, so this was kind of fun because I read in a little bit more today about the different types of chocolate. I'm trying to understand it better. I knew what my preferences were, but I didn't really understand the differences. So we actually have both here tonight. We have a cacao, and then we have cocoa powder. So cocoa powder and cacao powder actually, they both come from the same bean. They're the same thing, except for cocoa powder is roasted. So the beans are roasted. Cacao powder, it's raw beans. So that's the difference between those two. And then the bean is crushed and they extract the fat from it and then they powder it. So the next kind of difference that I found today was I get this on Amazon, and it's really rich and dark and deep, oops, if I turned it the right way, chocolate. And there is an alkalized cacao chocolate or an unalkalized, and basically if they process it and alkalize it, they put it through a bath to get the pH acidity neutral. So it doesn't have like an acidic or bitter aftertaste. So kind of depending on your taste bud preferences, kind of the nutritional difference would be that there's probably less value to it. Anything that's more processed is going to have less, nutrients available. So I wouldn't say that, your nutrition reflects are going to necessarily reflect that, but something to keep in mind if you're trying to go less processed, more raw, that sort of thing. So tonight I'm going to use, this is my special chocolate. I've been using this for years because I just think it's so good. But in any of the stores, you can very easily get the cocoa powder, and you could get the cacao as well. So we're going to do equal parts. So I'm going to do half a cup of this as well. And I'm just going to stir that up. So this chocolate sauce will be liquid because it's warmed right now. What will happen is if I put this in the fridge or if I put this in the freezer, I've even done this in like in ice trays or the little molds, you can actually make chocolates. It will firm the fridge or the freezer. However, at room temperature is going to melt. So like if you make this beautiful chocolate and you put it out at a party for 5 hours, it'll probably melt on you. Or it will at least become so soft that when you go to pick it up, it's just going to kind of like fall apart. So just something to be aware of. The fun thing though is you put it on something cold, like if we put it on the ice cream tonight, it's actually going to firm up. It's like the magic chocolate. So it's really versatile. I actually often like to dip things and then put them in the freezer, so I'll like dip banana chunks in it if I want something for the go and not have to like make something. They sell those for really expensive at the store. You just do it on your own really cheap. I'm just going to come around and show you guys. They've seen me do this a million times, but it gets to this like really nice liquid, and it's going to firm up as the time goes on, like as it starts to cool even more. But it's like this really nice chocolate to do, and it's a nice color, and it tastes really good. So I'm going to leave that aside while we move on to the ice cream probably right now. So has anyone made banana ice cream? You made banana ice cream? Okay, so I'll give a warning to those who have not. This gets really loud because the Vitamix is really loud. I get really aggressive because you really gotta jam the ice cream in, and I might burn a motor because you can burn the motors out. And I've done that actually in my first cooking demo ever years ago. My first thing I ever made was banana ice cream, and I burned the motor out 3 times. So I can't promise that I won't do that, but now I'm aware of kind of the limitations, so hopefully I won't do that. This does not have to be done with the Vitamix. This can be done with a food processor very easily. The main difference would be that you would put your bananas in whatever mixtures you wanted. You would put on your food processor, process it for like 30 seconds, scrape the edges, process it again, and keep scraping the edges until you get to that creamy texture. So not necessary to have this. It's a plus because I think it's a great tool to have in the kitchen, but not necessary. And by the magic of TV, Tony has frozen me bananas. Thank you, Tony. Another thing that took me a little while and a few motors of burning to figure out was smaller is better for the banana chunks. At first I was like putting whole bananas in there and smashing on it and not really understanding why I was burning it out so frequently. But so what you can do is, and this is a great way when you're at the store and like it's like 10 cents a pound for bananas that are really brown. Go home, peel them, and put them in the freezer. It'll be super flavorful for this. Anytime I have bananas, and they're really close to being like garbage or compost, I throw them in the freezer. So this is a great way to like use those bananas. So Tony pre-froze these for me, and I'm gonna cut them a little smaller.
And if you don't have a food processor or a blender that's really powerful, you can take the bananas out of the freezer for like 10 minutes and kind of let them be not like rock hard frozen. Sometimes that helps too.
I like that. So anti-technology. Go Tony. Sometimes I think about what did they do before all these tools? And I'm like, oh, they still cooked and they still ate. Like they did this. The other thing I learned, and it's probably not as much a problem with the food processor, but at least in the Vitamix is you can overfill it. And so you're not going to get an even nice mixture if you overfill too high. And sometimes even in these particular wide-based Vitamixes, if you put too little, it's just going to all kind of go along the side and not be enough to like make a nice mixture. One more. So this particular one, I'm gonna go ahead and just make it plain so you can kind of get an idea for what a base would taste like. A second flavor I thought we'd do is peanut butter with the chocolate, or chocolate can be on everything, right? You can't go wrong there. And then the last flavor is I have a fruit flavor. I think, did the recipe, I didn't look at the card, did it have like the alternatives? Mm-hmm. So you can, like I said, take it in a million different directions. If you want to add cinnamon to it, if you want to add, lime juice, you can do lime juice. Something that Tony was smart enough to get me was a little bit of soy milk to add to help the process of getting the bananas creaming. At home, I just abuse my Vitamix and like, don't add the liquid, mainly because I like my ice cream more firm. Of course, more liquid is going to become less and less firm. You can always make it and put it in the freezer, let it firm up for a few minutes if you have time and don't need to eat it fresh. So that's another option. So I'm going to put, for the sake of the motor, I'm going to put a dash of soy milk. And again, another kind of preference thing would be if you would want to add a dash of vanilla, we'll go ahead and do that. And then I've got such a sweet tooth, I think I have a problem. I'm going to add a dash of maple syrup because that's like, I got problems.
Just a dash.
All right, people, this is going to get loud and I apologize. So if you haven't had a Vitamix, this is the tamper, and it's safe to use. It can't go into the blades as long as you have your lid on. I had a friend who did this without the lid one time, and they did not survive that, so just be aware of that. In the motor just a minute. The other thing is when you're doing the Vitamix, you should use high power. You shouldn't use low power for anything thick, like if you're doing hummuses or ice cream, you always go up to the high power. I can smell the motor. It's exciting. Let's push it a little farther. I'll put a little more.
And that's normal. I burn my motor all the time.
Yeah. So the motors burn out. They reset automatically in 20 minutes, but another trick I learned from the demo that I screwed up at 3 times, I burned the motor, is if you put it in the freezer, it actually resets within like 5 minutes. All right. I think we're good here actually though, because the consistency looks really nice. And as you can see, it's pretty thick. Let me see here. We are gonna serve, while it's fresh, we'll serve you this, and should we put chocolate on it? Anyone? Chocolate? Okay. Is anyone feeling crazy? Does anyone want a little bit of coconut flakes on top? Anyone do not like coconut flakes? How about that? So maybe like 2 without? Okay. 3 without? Okay. Any questions so far, or any comments? Let's see, so we got, I know we got 5, 6, 7, 8, 22, 7, 4, 3. What's that? Yeah, you guys want to pass it out? Do you want to the chocolate? And like make it, I don't know if you want to spoon it. And those 3 we can do right away because they don't want to Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because I don't think we can do that. We need a bit of that. Let me count.
No coconut, come on, no coconut. You can just keep your spoon off. No coconut over here.
I really like the.
Let's see.
Is it with,
Yeah, I got
Did we get everyone?
no, you.
Everyone? Great, So like, you know, like I was saying, if you prefer a little more firm, you could put it in the freezer to let it firm up, do a little less liquid. And yeah, that's the first. So I'm gonna move on and I'm gonna do the banana flavor with peanut butter. I'm just gonna add a little bit of peanut butter. And it's just a really nice contrast with the chocolate. You know what? Maybe because they just saw me do this and ground it up and I'm gonna be loud, maybe we can start serving the next flavor.
Oh, smart.
So I just, I like, go ahead.
Do you use smooth or crunchy?
Either or, I've gone both ways. It's kind of fun if you want like a little chunk and crunch in it to do the chunky peanut butter because it's unlikely you're gonna get every single little peanut ground. And in fact, another thing I should say is the longer you grind with this, not only will the motor burn out, but it's heated. And so if you heat for a long time and you're trying to get like the thing so smooth, it's gonna heat up the ice cream. So, I think we'll just go on to the next flavor because I already have it pre-made. Do we just want to reuse cups? Do you guys want to just have line up? Is that okay? Thank you. So we have a berry ice cream here. So this is literally I basically did half banana and then half berry. And you know, you can certainly just do all berry. I think the banana though is what really brings the smoothness and ice cream to it. So usually when I'm adding another fruit, I do like half banana, half additional fruit, whatever it might be. I've done cherry, blueberry, strawberry, mixed berry. This is a mixed berry. Yeah?
Can you put the chocolate that you already have for?
Yeah, so the question is, can you put that chocolate sauce in the freezer? Yes. Can you put it in the fridge? Yes. How long? Pretty much indefinitely. I've never had an issue with that. I found one the other day because like I had a really deep fridge drawer. And I found one the other day and I was like, oh, what is that from? You know, it doesn't grow mold or anything. And the sugar is antibacterial, the maple syrup, chocolate is antibacterial, the cacao. So you can keep it kind of indefinitely. What I've also done is if you put it in the fridge, you can microwave it and have your sauce in it. Or you can reheat it on the stove top and have your sauce in it. Caution on overheating it too quickly because you'll burn the chocolate. So like in the microwave, chocolate's really easy to burn. So just being aware of that. Yeah. I actually will make it and have it in the fridge and take a scoop of it and just eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you did the berry one, you froze the berries.
So for the one you guys are getting right now, this is the berries. It is just a mixed berry. You guys can feel free to ask me questions. I'm just going to cut up the bananas and make the next flavor. Here's your A runaway, sorry. Whoever's in the crowd can get So I'm gonna do the peanut butter flavor. You can add, real quick, I'll just pause everyone so everyone can hear. Sorry. I don't mean to interrupt the conversation, it's just so everyone can hear. Sorry. We'll talk again, I swear. So for the peanut butter, you know, like again, you can add more peanut butter if you want more peanut butter flavor. I'm gonna do my exact measurements as I always do. Perfect.
Precisely.
That was exactly a quarter cup. And then a dash. So anyhow, I just want to make sure people caught that, and I'll add a dash of vanilla. It's always good with vanilla. Like, when does vanilla not add to life? Sorry people, this may get loud. Continue your conversation. So I smelled the motor. I'm gonna give it a little second to think and groove. And it's getting there, probably like one more grind. So real quick, I'll just do this too because I'm gonna let the motor rest before I really burn it out. This will be like the first time I've not burned a motor out on this demo. So I'm gonna keep this record clean. I'm gonna give that just a second, and I wanted to share. Sorry guys, I'm gonna stop you guys one more
New
time.
recipe. New recipe alert.
So I didn't put this on the card because the only thing I did on this was I made the chocolate, but it's just an idea of what you can do with the chocolate. So I took a date and I halved it. I put a slab of cashew cream butter, a pecan, and then I dipped it in the chocolate. And it's like one of my new favorite desserts. So I wanted to share it with you guys. So I pre-made this so you can try it. So I'll say one more time what it is. Actually, I almost feel like you should try it and love it, and then I'll tell you because then you'll really be about it because it's really good. So I'll let everyone take one of these. They're all
I
good.
know what's in it.
I'll let you kind of grab them. So a lot of times I'll like completely cover these, but if you kind of do it, I can say it. Usually the presentation's prettier and they can be made pretty, but I was like, cashew butter. I don't know if it's cashew butter, but it's so I'll tell you guys in just a second. Did everyone get one? You got one last night? Oh, we have to. You should come up here. There's probably enough for everyone to have two. Did you guys get? Oh, and I should also say that my little niece helped me. I instructed her and she did the work. I instructed you. Did you get one? Yeah. So again, like just another way in which you can use the chocolate, but I'll say one more time what it is. So I took a date and I halved the date. I put creamy salted cashew butter, which I got from Trader Joe's. I think that salt added the extra like little kick. I mean, because I've done it with peanut butter and I'm like, oh, that's cool, but like this one really. You can put the nut on the outside and make it look really elegant. But so that's like a little trick to do and another way to use the chocolate. Yeah, so you can store these in the fridge too. The chocolate will keep a little better in the freezer in terms of not sticking to each other, and the fridge will probably end up sticking a little bit together. The other thing, if anyone is super interested in doing that, the other thing is when I instructed Sude to do the date and with the cashew and pecan, I had her pre-freeze that. That way, when she dipped it in the chocolate, it was this cold frozen chunk, and then she dipped it in the chocolate, and the chocolate froze to it. So it was pretty instant. And then we set it to set in the freezer, but it's like ready to eat right away because the chocolate sets when it's cold. So.
And that's the same chocolate sauce?
Same chocolate sauce. Yeah. All right, gonna get that. Yeah, that's pretty good. We'll have little chunks of peanut butter. So maybe we'll line people up and scoop it again in their cups, and you could be the chocolate person and I'll be the ice cream person, or vice versa. We can do a little chocolate. Let's see. Do we want to, guys voted? No, they didn't. We came in first. Maybe this time I'm gonna make you work for your ice cream. I'm gonna make you form a little line because we'll do chocolate and ice cream. So maybe we'll have first row. Come up first row. Second row can start lining up. There's so many of you. Give your card. You know, you cannot. Line up, people. There you go. We're making math here. There's chocolate. Just the camera. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Those are delicious.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Another thing that just always has to life. You have another cup or is that just water?
It's just water.
I'm just trying to get
What's the matter? Okay. Hold your cup. Want the chops? Sorry, I'm making messes here.
Thanks so much.
You know, I'm gonna have everyone come up. They can have another.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Really?
You can just dump them on now.
You'll be here for a while. Yes. Yeah, but I'll make some yellow nuts. Something and so patiently. Yeah, I think maybe. Does everyone want another chocolate dessert? The little dates? Yeah? Okay, we got ours. Here you go.
Those are really good. Thank you.
So does anyone have any questions? I just wanted to do, we'll kind of wrap it up and like bring it together and hearing, we should have like a little cowbell. So, does anyone have any questions about that? It's pretty straightforward, bananas. That's what I love about it. Like, I love simple recipes. The minute I open up a cookbook and I see 2 pages, I'm like, next. Like, 1 page only, less than 5 ingredients, even better. So, yeah, I just want to encourage people to experiment because, again, you take any frozen fruit and you can pretty much turn it into an ice cream or dessert and then just roll with it. So, some of the benefits we're going to kind of touch upon. We usually have a nutritionist with us to kind of go in more details and ask or answer questions from the crowd. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it today, Gabriel. So we'll try to do our best to kind of field some questions. We probably can't get in depth like he was. Neither. Tom, you don't have a nutritional degree, do you?
Not an official, no.
I have a Google degree on nutrition.
I've done some nutrition education and a degree in health education, which is a little bit different. So I can give some basic general information, but not the deep, I could kind of go a foot deep and so we're not going to get too deep into it, but.
I can quick, before people ask questions, just talk a little bit about actually some of the benefits of the chocolate, because actually it is a really rich nutrient food, the cacao, the raw cacao. I'm not talking like a chocolate bar full of sugar at the grocery store. I'm talking about the cacao bean itself. I found it was interesting because I was like researching a little bit today, and one thing said, oh, it's got a million, I think a lot of people have heard this, like the antioxidant properties. And then the next thing I looked at said, well, those studies might not be like right on par, but there's still definitely benefit. They don't really totally understand why we have the benefits from it, but it's actually known to lower blood pressure. It's known to lower bad cholesterol and increase good cholesterol. So it has cardiovascular impacts of decreasing stroke, heart disease. There was, what other great thing? Oh, it actually is, I think we all know this, right? We've heard about the mood enhancing effects. It's actually, something that's been studied. It's not just made up. It does release, your body releases endorphins, and so your mood boosts when you eat chocolate, so eat chocolate. Let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I was touching upon and looking at today. Just like an interesting thing, because for me, I found it interesting when I was talking about alkalized chocolate and how they wash it through, it's like a potassium carbonate bath to neutralize it so it doesn't have that aftertaste, that bitter taste. Well, you have to consider that when you're baking, because if they specifically call, and a lot of times they don't specify, but when you're baking and they call for a cocoa powder or cacao, if you get the Dutch or the processed or the alkalized, it's all the same thing. You have to consider whether you're using baking soda or baking powder, because baking soda needs to have an acid to interact with, to cause the rise. So if it calls for cocoa powder and it's an unprocessed, and then you use something like baking soda versus baking powder, it can really mess with the recipe. You might not get the rise you want. So, because baking powder, the difference is that baking powder is neutral and you don't need an acid-base balance. It's already got it and it will cause a rise. So, just something to be aware of when you're looking at recipes, especially with baking with cacao powder. So, that's all I got.
I was just going to say, another benefit to cooking it this way is if you're not too heavy-handed with maple syrup. I'm not saying
That was perfect.
just in general, if you're not too heavy-handed, then your ingredients are basically what? Fruit, peanut butter, soy milk. You could even eat it for breakfast. We eat it for breakfast at our house sometimes. The kids get really excited because they think they're just eating chocolate ice cream for breakfast, but really it's bananas and peanut butter. So that's really awesome, and so it's a more just whole foods way to have a dessert or a treat, as opposed to ice cream. If you sub this for ice cream, the benefits just keep increasing because the sugars here are coming from fruit, whereas with ice cream it's processed sugar. And then having a dairy alternative and not eating dairy has other health benefits. So some studies have linked dairy to various types of cancers, and have also there's not really an increased benefit to having more calcium once you reach a certain threshold. And so that's why in America we have the highest intake of dairy products, and we also have the highest incidence of osteoporosis and hip fractures. So, there's not really necessarily a need to keep pumping us full of dairy or calcium per se. And a lot of foods are fortified with calcium. So the soy milk that we have today is fortified with calcium. And then there's a handout on the table with lots of different plant-based sources of calcium that are easily absorbable. And I think that's pretty much the gist of it, unless people have specific questions.
I found another thing I'll just real quick add in, because I was like, like what else is in the cacao powder? But it's super high in fiber, and it's actually a decent source of protein. It's well versed in a lot of vitamins, including magnesium, folate, iron, potassium. It's not like super concentrated on any one of those. It's just like a nice balance of all those things. So that was kind of cool.
Do you ever put cocoa powder in the Vitamix, or does that get kind of grainy? Do you keep it just with the liquid chocolate if you're adding it to your
So like if I was gonna do the chocolate sauce, would I ever do it in the Vitamix or something like that?
No, I guess like if you wanted chocolate peanut butter banana ice cream.
Oh, God, throw it in. Yeah.
Yeah, the picture on the recipe that I took that, well, my wife took that picture, and that was made with that. Just throw the cocoa
Just
powder
throw it
in
in
there.
there so it doesn't get like grainy and.
What I would probably say is, another little cheat I've learned is that, like, what I might do is like a half batch and make sure the chocolate's mixed well, and then add the additional bananas. For instance, like when I did the fruit, what I actually usually like to do is cream the bananas first because they cream really nicely, and then add the fruit and then blend it. So you might start with like a base of the banana and then add your ingredients. Otherwise, sometimes things don't mix as evenly. So, yeah. Any other questions?